when 73-year-old Vietnam veteran Robert Jenkins realized his card was declined at Denny's. He never expected the humiliation that would follow. He also never expected that Katt Williams, sitting 3 tables away, would turn his worst moment into something beautiful. It was just past 9 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday night in Nashville when Katt Williams walked into the Denny's on Murfreesboro Pike. He'd just finished a set at Zani's Comedy Club and was craving their Grand Slam breakfast, one of his guilty pleasures after late shows. The restaurant was nearly empty except for a few scattered customers nursing coffee and late dinners. Katt slid into a corner booth where he could see the entire restaurant but remain relatively unnoticed. After years in the spotlight, he'd learned to appreciate these quiet moments where he could just be a regular person eating regular food without cameras or crowds. The waitress, a woman in her 50s named Linda, according to her name tag, approached with a tired but genuine smile. "What can I get you tonight, hon?" "Grand Slam, extra crispy bacon, and a black coffee," Katt replied, settling back into the vinyl booth. "And take your time. I'm not in any rush." As Linda walked away to place his order, Katt noticed an elderly man sitting alone 3 tables over. The man was thin, probably in his 70s, wearing a faded Vietnam veteran's baseball cap and a jacket that had seen better days. He sat with perfect posture, methodically cutting his pancakes into precise squares before eating them one at a time. There was something about the man's bearing that caught Katt's attention. Despite his worn clothes, he carried himself with dignity. His movements were deliberate, respectful. This was someone who had been taught discipline and had never forgotten it. The man finished his meal and sat back, patting his stomach with satisfaction. When Linda approached his table with the check, he smiled warmly and pulled out a worn leather wallet. "That'll be $8.99, sir," Linda said, setting the check down. The man handed her a debit card, still smiling. "Thank you, darling. That was delicious." Linda walked to the register and swiped the card. After a moment, she frowned and tried again. Then a third time, Katt watched as her expression changed from confusion to something harder. She returned to the man's table, her voice loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "Sir, your card's been declined." The man's face immediately flushed red. "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try again. Maybe I punched in the wrong pin." "I tried it 3 times, Linda said, her voice growing more irritated. "It's not the pin. There's not enough money on there." The elderly man began fumbling through his wallet with shaking hands, pulling out a few crumpled bills and counting them quietly. Katt could see his lips moving as he counted. 2, 4, 6. His shoulders sagged as he realized he was short. "I'm so sorry," the man said quietly, his voice barely audible. "I thought I had enough. Let me see. Maybe if I just get the pancakes instead of the whole meal." "You already ate it all," Linda said, her patience clearly exhausted. "You can't just eat a meal and then decide you want something cheaper." Other customers had started to notice the commotion. A couple at a nearby table exchanged glances and whispered to each other. A man reading a newspaper looked up with annoyance, as if the elderly man's poverty was somehow disrupting his evening. The veteran's hands were shaking now as he continued searching through his wallet, checking every pocket twice. "I could wash dishes," he offered desperately, "or come back tomorrow with the money. I get my Social Security check on Friday." Linda sighed dramatically. "Sir, we can't let people just eat and promise to pay later. That's not how restaurants work." Katt felt something burning in his chest as he watched this man's dignity being stripped away piece by piece. The veteran had stopped looking up, his eyes fixed on the table as he continued his futile search for money that wasn't there. "Maybe I have enough in my truck," the man said, starting to stand up. "Let me go check my ashtray. Sometimes I keep quarters there." "Sir, please don't leave without paying," Linda said loudly, causing more heads to turn. "I'll have to call my manager." That's when Katt Williams had seen enough. He stood up from his booth and walked over to the veteran's table. The elderly man looked up with embarrassed eyes, clearly mortified that his situation had attracted attention. "Excuse me," Katt said gently, addressing the veteran. "I couldn't help but notice you served in Vietnam." He gestured to the man's cap. "Yes, sir, I did," the man replied quietly, his voice filled with shame. 1968 to 1970. Katt extended his hand. "Thank you for your service, soldier. What's your name?" "Robert Jenkins," the man replied, shaking Katt's hand with a grip that was still firm despite his age. "Well, Mr. Jenkins, I'm Katt, and it would be my honor to take care of your meal tonight." Before Robert could protest, Katt turned to Linda. "I'll take his check, and I want you to bring this man a piece of whatever your best pie is, with a scoop of vanilla ice cream." and a fresh cup of coffee. Linda looked confused. Sir, you don't have to. I want to, Katt said firmly, and I want you to treat this man with the respect he deserves. He fought for your freedom to stand here and serve pancakes. The least we can do is make sure he has a good meal. Robert's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. I can pay you back on Friday when... Katt held up his hand. Mr. Jenkins, with respect, you're not paying me back. This isn't a loan. This is gratitude. He sat down across from Robert, who was wiping his eyes with a napkin. The restaurant had gone quiet, other customers now watching this interaction with interest rather than judgment. Tell me about Vietnam, Katt said. Where were you stationed? Robert's posture straightened slightly. Mekong Delta, mostly. I was a medic with the 9th Infantry Division. Saved a lot of boys who were younger than I was. A medic, Katt repeated with genuine respect. You saved lives. I tried to, Robert said, his voice growing stronger. Sometimes I succeeded, sometimes... He trailed off, staring at something only he could see. Linda returned with a generous slice of apple pie and ice cream, setting it down carefully in front of Robert. Her demeanor had completely changed. She was gentler now, perhaps understanding for the first time who she had been humiliating. Mr. Jenkins, she said quietly, I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't realize. Robert looked up at her with kind eyes. It's all right, dear. You were just doing your job. Katt watched this exchange with growing admiration for the veteran's grace. Even after being embarrassed, he held no grudge. So, what brings you out on a rainy Tuesday night? Katt asked. Robert smiled sadly. Today's the anniversary of when my unit got ambushed. Lost 3 good friends that day. I always come here on this date because they can't. The weight of that statement settled over the table. This wasn't just about a man who couldn't afford dinner. This was about a man honoring fallen friends in the only way he could. What were their names? Katt asked softly. Jimmy Rodriguez, Tommy Chen, and Marcus Washington. Robert replied without hesitation. Jimmy was going to be a teacher when he got home. Tommy wanted to open a restaurant with his father. Marcus was going to marry his high school sweetheart. Katt felt his throat tighten. They'd be proud to know you still remember them. I remember everything about them, Robert said, taking a bite of his pie. Their favorite songs, their jokes, their dreams. As sometimes I feel like I'm living for all 4 of us. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of Robert's words hanging in the air. Around them, the restaurant had returned to normal, but something had changed. The other customers seemed more thoughtful, their conversations quieter. Mr. Jenkins, Katt said finally, can I ask you something personal? Robert nodded. Are you struggling? Really struggling? Robert's pride warred with honesty for a moment before honesty won. Yes, he admitted quietly. My medical bills have been eating up my Social Security. I've got some health issues from Agent Orange exposure. And the medications are expensive. Tonight, I thought I had enough for a simple meal, but I miscalculated. Katt pulled out his phone and started typing. What's your address, Mr. Jenkins? Why? Robert asked suspiciously. Because I want to make sure you never have to count quarters for dinner again. Within minutes, Katt had transferred $5,000 to Robert's account through his banking app. When he showed Robert the confirmation, the elderly man stared at the screen in disbelief. I can't accept this, Robert said, his voice shaking. This is too much. Mr. Jenkins, let me tell you something, Katt said, leaning forward. I make my living making people laugh. You served your country and saved lives. Who do you think deserves that money more? Robert began crying again, but these were different tears. Why would you do this for a stranger? Because you're not a stranger, Katt replied. You're family. Every veteran who served this country is family, and family takes care of family. Other customers had begun to take notice of what was happening. A woman at a nearby table walked over and handed Robert a $20 bill. Thank you for your service, she said simply. Soon, other people were approaching. A businessman left $50 on the table. A young couple contributed $30. Even Linda pulled out her tip money and added it to the growing pile. What's happening? Robert asked, overwhelmed by the sudden generosity. People are remembering what gratitude looks like, Katt replied. By the time the impromptu collection was over, there was nearly $300 in cash on the table in addition to Katt's digital transfer. I don't know what to say, Robert whispered. Say you'll use it, Katt replied. Say you'll take care of yourself. Say you'll come back here next year and tell Jimmy, Tommy, and Marcus about all the good people in this world who still remember what sacrifice means." As they prepared to leave, Robert gripped Katt's hand firmly. "You didn't just pay for a meal tonight. You gave me back my dignity." "No, sir," Katt replied. "Your dignity was never gone. Some people just forgot how to see it." 3 months later, Katt received a letter at his management company. Inside was a photo of Robert Jenkins volunteering at a local veterans center, helping other struggling vets navigate the benefit system. The note read, "Dear Katt, I'm paying it forward every day. Thank you for reminding me that there are still good people in this world. Your friend, Robert Jenkins, U.S. Army, retired." Katt framed that letter and hung it in his dressing room. It served as a daily reminder that sometimes the most important performances happen, not on stage, but in the quiet moments when we choose to see the dignity in others. Because respect isn't just something we give to celebrities or wealthy people. It's something we owe to every person who has served something greater than themselves. And sometimes all it takes is one person standing up to remind everyone else what honor really looks like.